Living and Loving Life's podcast is to help people find their balance spiritually, mentally, physically, emotionally, financially, and socially. Listeners will have a positive mindset, renewed outlook for themselves, their future, and believe they are beautifully made inside and out. Listeners will shine and be an example to others as they live fully, completely with no barriers, no burdens, and no regrets.
All right, everyone. Welcome to Motivational Mondays with Living and Loving podcast. We have a special guest today. This is going to be for our fellas. I wanted to definitely have him because he would be that perfect person for this episode. And I wanted to do this because I don't want to have the men feel left out or like they don't matter. So I wanted this to be my second episode that I ever aired, just to be very clear that everyone matters. All right. Yeah. So welcome our guest, Clay Smeltzer.
Yeah, Smeltzer. That's
so sorry, but he's going to go ahead and introduce himself to us and let us know a little bit about him.
No, you're good. You're good. Yeah. Listen, I'm also a 7th grade math teacher, so I butcher names all day long, so it's okay.
So I do that.
But it's all right. Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, absolutely. It's good. It's good. No, my name's Clay Smeltzer, and I am the founder of the Purpose Infused Brotherhood, and I bring men together to build, battle, and bond so that we can be the best version of ourselves every single day. And what I mean by build is we build strength in our foundations in ourselves and in the relationships that we have with other people. Battle means we battle through life's everyday struggles to be the best version of ourselves, and bond means we bond together as a family to lift each other up through ownership and accountability. So that's who I am. That's kind of what I do. And then on top of that, I'm a man, I'm a husband, I'm a father. As I said, I'm a 7th grade math teacher as well. And then I've been a baseball coach. So just that's, I guess, who I am and what I do.
Awesome. So I want to thank you so much. Okay, so today we're going to talk about, do men have feelings too? Okay. Yeah. I think that this is huge. I get a lot of times I put up posts on my Instagram and a lot of men will say, well, men too, but the way the post is said, clearly I'm a woman, so it comes from a woman's perspective or a woman's voice. But yeah. I still want to let men have that floor and Correct. Express themselves and let us know how they really feel so us as women can do our part too.
Absolutely. And I would say vice versa as well, so that men, we can support women as well. Because here's the biggest thing. When women grow, men grow. Yeah. When men grow, women grow. Yeah. So we have that dichotomy. Hand in hand.
And when you have both healthies, you have double healthy, and it just makes life so much better. So that's exactly the point, what I'm trying to get to. And like I said, that's why I wanted this to be episode 2, because I do not want this to be like a woman's only woman empowerment. Yes, I love women. I'm a woman. But at the same time, self-empowerment, meaning everybody. Okay.
Absolutely. Totally agree.
So talking about, do men have feelings? What does that look like for a man?
Well, usually what it looks like is we shove them all in the back of our head, and we don't really want to deal with them until we have to. And that's what it usually looks like. What we're trying to do, and especially with the Purpose Infused Brotherhood, is I try to help men realize that let's bring that out. Let's bring that to the surface. Because like for me, my story was I kept it all inside. I tried to be the tough guy. I can handle everything by myself, all that kind of things. And those are the thought processes that go through guys' brains. Like, I can handle it. I'm a tough guy. I'm a provider and protector. I don't need anybody else. Now, don't get me wrong. Women can do that too. But in the guy's mind, like, we're the provider protector. We should be able to take care of ourselves. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of our thought process. So I did that and did it all alone. And the problem is at 30, I'm 40 now, but at 35, I'm sitting over on my couch and I'm having a panic attack over a Game of Thrones episode. And I'm like, and my wife is sleeping next to me. I don't know how she was sleeping through Game of Thrones, but She was sleeping next to me. And I'm looking at myself sitting here going, I'm literally freaking out right now over a TV show. If I cannot provide and protect for myself, how am I going to do that for her? How am I going to do it for our kids that are sleeping upstairs? If I can't take care of myself, how can I take care of anybody else? And that for me, then that's where the shame starts to roll in. That's when the negativity starts to roll in. That's when all the doubt, all the fear, all the anger, all of these different things that guys feel, like all of that started to roll in. And for about 2 weeks, I didn't say anything because I'm like, I'm just going to man up through it. And well, that didn't work because like every day was like, I mean, just a crazy ball of craziness going on inside of here. Mm-hmm. You know, from anywhere from aliens to like, I don't know, I could have anxiety over like a spoon or something like that. But the anxiety was just keep flowing and flowing and flowing. And the reason why that was because I didn't deal with my feelings. I didn't deal with what I knew I was feeling and the truth about myself. So when we try to hide what the truth actually is and what we really feel, that's when we get into these spots of depression, anxiety, things like that in the mental health area. In that. And also just stress. We're stressed out. We're overworked. We're overwhelmed. You know, we got that work-life balance thing going on. And it's like, and all this stuff, you know, if you're an entrepreneur on all these plates and we can't do it all. So we have to kind of find strategies and stuff to be able to do that. So again, for me, do men have feelings? Absolutely. Do we want to talk about them? Not really. Should we? Yeah, we should. Because when we don't, then we get to spots like, I don't want guys to go through what I went through, you know, and that's where I got to, that's where the brotherhood came from, is because I want to create a space, or I wanted to create a space where not only could I share, but other guys who were going through the same stuff. Because once I went through, I actually started sharing. I started off with, I called it Wilts, what I learned today. And when I did that, I just started sharing on Facebook, basically put my stuff out there. Okay. Like, hey, here's what I'm feeling. Here's what I learned today. Because it allowed me to get it out instead of shove it in the back. Shove it in the back, I can ignore it. But when I put it out in front and I put it out to a whole bunch of people on Facebook or to my family, or I say it out loud or I write it down, it's out in the open now. Now I have to do something. So it brings it to the conscious instead of staying in the subconscious. And so the more I did that, the more I realized I wasn't the only one going through this stuff. So that's where kind of the brotherhood came. The purpose-infused brotherhood is saying, hey, you know what? Let's bring guys together so we can build, so we can battle, and we can bond together through this thing we call life. You know, and women need it too. Women have their groups, and I'm linked up with some different women's groups and things like that, like doing awesome things. But we needed our space to be able to share, you know, as guys, and then talk about our feelings as guys. Because as we get older, we have our buddies. We get in these ruts. You know, we have our buddies. We talk sports and all that kind of other stuff with, and we can grunt and have a conversation with each other. But I wanted a deeper conversation about things that I was going through, and I didn't have that. Okay. So because I didn't have that, I decided just to create it. So that's kind of where. Can I stop you right there, Clay?
When you said you didn't have that, is that because your friends weren't in a space comfortable to talk about it?
Part, but I also wasn't in a space to talk about it. That's why I had friends like that.
Okay.
So it was kind of both.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I surrounded myself with people who didn't want to talk about that stuff too.
Okay. Now, so you're not put in the position to talk about it.
Yeah. So, but I wanted that. Now, some of the guys that I was friends with, ended up either becoming part of the brotherhood, or we'd had those conversations. We'd have deeper conversations, but I wasn't willing to have a deeper conversation. So nobody around me was either.
Okay. So. Awesome. Okay. So I noticed you mentioned on your website that you were an extremely happy person, but on the outside.
Yeah.
But in the inside, you felt like overwhelmed, drowning.
Overwhelmed. Yeah.
And that is because you weren't able to express your emotions and really just talk about it.
Yeah. And
go ahead.
I was Mr. Positivity.
Okay.
But the problem is people, and this is why I know, like, if I'm like, hey, how's it going? And they're like, oh, it's all good. It's all good. Like, I already know, like, I know you're lying.
Yeah,
like,
that's a mask.
Because that's
Right.
what I said.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, how's it going, Clay? Oh, it's all good, man. It's all good. Everything's good. Love. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But underneath of the surface, I was dealing with all those things that I didn't want anybody else to see, because, well, if somebody else saw that, then that would make me weak. That would make me less than a man, less than a husband, less than a father. If my wife saw that, if my kids saw that, she would think less of me. The problem with that situation is that all of that was a mirror onto what I felt about myself.
Right.
And as soon as, like, so 2 weeks after I had that midlife crisis, you know, I actually said something to my wife. I said, listen, I'm dealing with anxiety like every day, constant. I just want this thing to shut off. I don't know how to do that, but I'm just wanting to let you know that I just got to say it. And she's like, okay. She goes, I don't know what to do either, but I'm here for you. And I'm like, no, wait, hold on a sec. You don't think less of me as like a man? Like, she's like, no, like, or as a husband, as a father. And she's like, no. She's like, I don't know how to help you, but I'm here to support you. And I'm like,
That's so
like, I should have said this a long time ago, but, and it comes back, and this is, I think, for everybody, it comes back to two questions. It always does. Am I good enough? And do I have what it takes? And those two questions are constant, especially in the minds of a man. Those are the two greatest questions we can ever ask ourselves, always. And I'm sure that's for women as well, is, am I good enough and do I have what it takes?
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's exactly why I had you on my show, is because my thing is self-confidence and self-love. I don't care if you're a man or a woman. You have to have those two things.
Correct.
You just do, because life is just so much easier when you know your worth, who you are, and love that person, because then you can show up as you are and not be so afraid of what people are going to say or think, because you know you're okay, regardless of what the rest of the world thinks of you. So I love that, and I love your message. So tell me, what kind of steps did you start to take to just start getting that subconscious flowing to be able to open up and want to start sharing so you could be in a comfortable space?
Well, the first thing I understood, I'm an athlete, so the first thing I knew is I had to get uncomfortable. So I always knew that. Like, a rubber band doesn't work unless it's stretched.
Right.
And I had to be the rubber band. I had to get stretched. And it stinks, because one of the reasons why, and this is probably for a lot of people, is one of the reasons why I want to work on things before it got to that point where it's like the crap hit the fan, is because I knew I was going to have to deal with the stuff I didn't want to deal with. And I didn't want to deal with it.
Like, the painful stuff we want to bury. Yeah. Right.
I didn't want to do it. And it wasn't because I didn't think I could handle it. It wasn't because I didn't think I was good enough. Again, I was Mr. Positivity. It just, I knew it was going to hurt. I knew I was going to have to deal with stuff I didn't want to deal with. I knew I was going to have to go to the dark. And I was really trying to fight the dark. You know, I was trying to say, like, even my anxiety, like, I don't like it, but it's a part of me. But I used to loathe it. I used to hate it. You know, anger, like, if it would take me a lot to press my button, but when my button pressed, it was like 0 to 4,000. You know, I skipped all of it. You know, it wasn't that I hurt anybody or anything like that. Like, it was just like the energy inside of me was like, you know.
Yeah,
and
all out at once.
Yeah, and I didn't like that about me. Like, there's these things, you can call them demons, you can call them, like, you know, bad energy, you can call them whatever it is that you want to call them, but here's what it is. It's part of you. That's what it is. And what I didn't want to do is I wanted to kick them all out. The problem is when I tried to kick them out, they fought back worse, until I started to, I did what I call shadow work. For me, I had to go into my shadow. And that shadow, I used the dark side of the light chasers. Okay, here from Debbie Ford. So again, dark side of the light chasers from Debbie Ford. That allowed me to go through and deal with the stuff I didn't want to deal with, what I call the shadow. Now, remember, our shadows are always there. No matter how light or how dark it gets, it's always still there. It doesn't go away. So in order for me, I can't kick it out, which is what I was trying to do. So I had to deal with that. So I had to dive into the shame, the hurt, the fear, the pain, all of those different things that I didn't like about myself. And that's where a lot of the techniques that Debbie Ford used here in the dark side of the light chasers were good. Now, some of them got a little weird for me. But again, take the principle behind it, what it's to do. It's to dive into things that you don't like. And honestly, that's where the biggest change, the biggest uncomfortable came. But the biggest changes came because I found out that they were actually benefited me. Like my anxiety is one of the reasons why I was so good at what I did on the field, on the athletic field, because I utilized all of that stuff that was being released into my mind, into my brain, and into my body to actually perform at a high level. So I'm like, wow, I used it. But when did my anxiety come on? It came on when baseball was done. So I played high school baseball and football. I went to college, played baseball. I broke my thumb in my freshman year. I played the whole year with a broken thumb, which ended up taking me out. Yeah. Which my determination to make the major leagues took me out of the major leagues. That was also something I had to own when in my spiral in the dark. I had to own that part. I didn't want to own it. I'm like, injury, blah, blah, blah. I was mad about it because that's what I chased after. That's what I worked really hard for. But I had to own the fact that I took myself out of it, which I'm okay now. Life is what it is because of that. But again, I had to dive into the shadow of the things I didn't want to deal with. That created a ton of feeling. So do guys feel? Yeah. Like there's crying going on. There's hurt going on. There's and I talk I've been divorced twice. My first marriage, I was kind of blindsided, and that really hurt. That was and when a guy gives himself to somebody, especially in marriage, not all of them, but when for me, I give all, the whole thing. It's all me. And when it gets hurt, it's a huge gaping wound. That's why when you look at statistics and you look at guys who are divorced once, the percentage of them getting married again aren't bad. But when you go get divorced twice, usually it's a real small percent that'll ever get married a third time because that hurts too much. Yeah. But for me, I'm a hopeless romantic. I'm okay. I love all those love shows. I like, hopeless, romantic comedies. I love those things. I'm cool with crying. I'll be the first in my family to cry in movies. But that took me a while to admit, you know what I mean? I didn't want to admit that. I didn't want to feel that. I didn't want to do that. Why? Because I thought it was weak. Nobody else thought it was weak. But what we realize is when we go and actually own our feelings, we end up allowing ourselves to love our stories. We end up allowing ourselves to live with purpose. And we end up finding out that owning your feelings is actually strength. Yeah. The guy I was before, that fake guy, was insecure. Yeah. And he didn't want to deal with his feelings. Mm-hmm. I was an emotionally reactive mess. Right. And now I'm a thought reactive. Sometimes I'm still a mess, but we all have our normal. Messes.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. So awesome. I love that you're being open, and this is really useful because it can help someone else. Okay, so then also you mentioned on your website that there's 2 reasons why men would change. Mm-hmm. What are those reasons?
The 2 greatest reasons is when there is something out in front of you that is so important or awesome that you want to chase after it. So for instance, for me, to do all the things I did, the carrot, that golden carrot out front was the major leagues, stepping onto the big show for the first time. Or the second way that men change is because I'm just going to say hopefully it's okay. The shit hits the fan. Those are the 2 ways that it kind of works out. One, there's something out in front of you that's that great that you want to move towards it, or something happens that bad in your life. You're like, listen, something has to change. And for me, it was the second one. It's sitting there, panic attack, going, how am I going to take care of my wife and family if I can't take care of myself? Right. And that started a huge shame cycle. A lot of times people don't think men have shame. They don't feel shame. They're like, you don't care and you just move on. Yeah. Well, that's our protecting agent. We care. Yeah. Mm-hmm. We care deeply. We just don't know how. We weren't taught. Mm-hmm. My dad didn't teach me to talk about my feelings. He taught me to go work hard. Mm-hmm. And I love my dad for that. But, we have a great relation now because he's also has seen me open up. So he's opened up. But we've had conversations that are
and
more.
That comes from what was taught to him.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So it just comes down to a line of taught behaviors until somebody's like, okay, hold on. Which in your case, you were that one that was like, okay, all of that's great. And yes, mm-hmm. men need to have all these, but there's one aspect to it that's missing.
Yeah.
So is it fair to say that men are just as emotional as women? They just don't know how to apply that?
Sometimes I think we're more.
So, and my thing is, the way I think of it is, I'm not sure what your religious beliefs are, but for me, I always look at it like God only gives people the things that they need.
Yeah.
So if men aren't supposed to cry or men are not supposed to hurt, why were they given those feelings in the first place? Why just not remove it in a whole thing? Like, you don't need it. Why put that there? So I have a 6-year-old little boy. And yes, I want him to be strong. I want him to know men things, but I also want him to know it's okay if you stub your toe and cry. I'm not going to tell you, sit down, you're man up, you'll be fine. No, your toe hurts. And it is okay to feel that my toe is hurting and I want to cry about it, because that's human nature, to feel and to hurt and to be able to express it. So that's the thing is like, I love the fact that we don't need to take away from what our parents taught us. They only taught what they know.
Correct.
Doesn't mean it's all right, and it doesn't mean it's all wrong. But if you see something that doesn't fit in your life or your lifestyle for your children, it's okay to question and change things around for the better. Because now, look, you taught your dad something. You know, something he never knew, and that's better because now he can feel better and have some releasing of his emotions that he's had for generations that he was afraid to speak about or even have. So look at that. You're helping the future and
the
you know,
and the past.
And the past. Look at you, Clay. I love that. Okay, so what would you say is one of the hardest lessons you've learned during your journey? And do you still apply it to your day-to-day life now?
I would say one of the hardest lessons was owning the true self. And yes, I still use it every day. And that's why,
the
like,
A with the B side. We all have both sides to us, and it's never going to go anywhere. Can we get better? Absolutely. But knowing that your A and B side make who you are, uniquely packaged you in your package, and that doesn't take anything away from you. You're Clay, and you're amazing with that A and that B side. That sometimes you lose your temper, or sometimes you want to scream. We're humans. So the fact that you're trying to be better, but still accepting both for what it is awesome. It's awesome.
Thank you. And I agree. It's both. It's like, think about Instagram. You know what I mean? Think about social media. They want to show you the best.
Yeah.
Well, the problem is the best isn't. You're missing all the rest. Exactly. You know what I mean? You don't see all the stuff. You know,
or what the journey was to get you to the best.
Absolutely, yeah. And I'm a fan of The Rock, and if you look at his story, you know, it's like, look at all the things that he went through. You don't see all the scars. You don't see all the pain. You don't see all the things. You just see what he looks like. You just see what he looks like now. This awesome dude who does a ton of good in the world, but you didn't see all the stuff that he went through to get to that place. Exactly. Just like you. You have everybody,
including myself.
Have your story. I have my story. And that's a beautiful thing. This is a beautiful thing about humanity, is that we're all different.
Yeah.
And we got to celebrate that. And that's awesome. We don't take
own it and love it and not compare ourselves to anyone else, because everybody has their own journey. Everyone took different steps. You are in your seat because of the steps you took, and that was your purpose. My seat is different than yours. So we don't even compare on the same, we're not even on the same plane.
Correct. Yep. And that's, I love it because, you know, in the world we live in today, everybody wants to be a part of something.
Yeah.
The problem is in doing that, we somewhat take away your individuality. And that's horrible. Like, to me, I'm like, that's horrible. You know, there is an old, in China, there was, out in the areas, one of the tribes would put a hex on another tribe when they went to war of always mentally staying the same. And I'm like, oh, dude, that is like
awful.
That is the worst thing. Like, you'd be like, why don't you just like have a flood the village or something like that? But you said always mentally stay the same. And I'm like, that is the worst to me. That is the worst thing you could ever do to somebody, because there will never change. They will always be the same. And there is no difference between one person to the other. There would just be the same as everybody else. And I think, you know, I never want to take away from the individuality of anybody. So just like in our brotherhood, everybody is different. I don't sit there and I don't say, hey, and some groups do, some groups don't. To me, I don't tell you who to be. I don't tell you how to think. I don't tell you, I give you things. We have discussions. We have talk. You use what you want. for your life because it's your life. I just help you own yourself. I help you love your story, and I go help you live with purpose every single day. We do that by building, battling, and bonding together. And that's where, everybody should be like that. Like, own yourself. Yeah. Like, know exactly who you are, the good and the bad. Because like what you were saying there, the A and the B side. Well, a lot of times we want to be like, well, I just want to own the A. You don't get to do that.
Yeah.
You got to own the A and you got to own the B.
Yeah, because you're the other half of you is the B. You can't show up 50%. Like, where's the other half of you? Yeah, and I love that you mentioned that because that's how I am with my clients. The first thing they want to call and say is, okay, tell me how to get happy. Well, that doesn't work because happy for me looks different than you're happy. Yeah. Self-love and self-care is different for me than you. Correct. So we need to find what you like, what Correct. Your likings are, your identity, what that looks like for you. So yeah, it's not about coming to us and saying, oh, fix my life, figure it out, write it down on paper. It doesn't kind of work like that. You got to want to do the work, commit to yourself, love who you are. Don't try to hide anything. Yep. You've already suppressed enough. It's time to reveal, deal, and move on.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think too, with the kind of the world we live in, we want a quick fix. We want we live in a microwave society. Yeah. We live in a society where things are handed out for free. I'm in education. I don't know your thoughts about education, but we hand a lot of stuff out for free. And it's like, we're not helping anybody. Yeah. What we're doing is we're creating people who don't take ownership and don't hold themselves accountable. Think about this. And that's just the system. There's a lot, listen, education, I'm kind of the black sheep in education, but there's a lot of great things that are happening in education. A lot of great people out there do a ton of great. So I just want to mention that because I mentioned education. But when we look at it, think about what we were taught as a society, as if maybe from your parents, maybe from school, maybe from all these things, because we were born not knowing anything and we learned everything along the way or taught it. We will literally give ourselves to everybody else, but we won't give ourselves to ourselves. We will literally sacrifice. I'll sacrifice for you and you and you and you and you and you and you. Especially as an educator, I've done that. I mean, I was a burnout teacher at 13 years. This is my 18th year teaching. By the year 13, I was burnt out for a while then. But why? Because I gave myself to everybody else and I gave nothing to myself. I gave everything to my wife and my kids, but I gave nothing to myself. Yeah. And if you don't take time for you, and that's not selfish, because a lot of people are like, well, that's selfish.
My God, I was going to say that. Yeah.
No. You have to, and I never got this. I was part of a business team in my end of my 20s, and one of the guys, like literally huge guy in the world of what he does, he always would say, you have to be selfish in order to be selfless. And I was sitting there going, what? I don't even get what you're saying, dude. I'm like, whatever. Every time he said it, I'm like, cool, that sounds awesome. I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Until I went through my stuff. I made the changes and I assessed, I reflected, I adjusted my life to get to where I wanted to go. And then I look back and I'm like, oh man, I get it now. Yeah. Like, yes, I had to be selfish. I had to take time for me. I had to go to the gym. So I work on the 5 foundations: body, mind, bonds, bills, and spirit. Nice. I had to work on all those because that's what keeps me centered. If I don't work on those and I don't have a routine, I got a morning routine, I got an evening routine. My morning routine, and I teach this to our guys, is a morning routine sets intentions. What you do for that morning, I don't know, whatever you need to do, journal, meditate, whatever, do those things, but set intention for your day. In the end of the day, I teach an ARA sequence, which is assess, reflect, and adjust. Okay. At the end of the day, do it. Why? Because it lets you know at the end of the day before I go to sleep, and maybe I might not wake up tomorrow, but it lets me know I left it all in the field. That's one thing that my dad was also a high school football and baseball coach. That's what he always tells us. Don't walk across the line unless you're willing to leave it all in the field. And every day my feet hit that ground off of my bed, that's my line. So I want to know at the end of the day, did I leave it all in the field? And the answer is going to be yes every day because I choose that. Yeah. And, that's just something like, don't be so willing to give yourself to everybody else that you forget about you. That's one of the biggest problems we have in this world. Yeah.
And that's with my clients. They'll be like, it's selfish to take care of myself. But one of my aha moment was for me is I had my son a little later. So I was 31 when I had my son. So I lived my whole entire life about myself, but also giving myself away. Me and him were on the plane, and the stewardess came around and she goes, if we get in an accident, you need to put the mask on yourself first. Mm-hmm. And I was like, no. I was just like, no, like my kid, just my kid. But then I sat there and I thought about it the whole flight. And I thought to myself, like, if I don't take care of me, I won't even be around to take care of him.
Correct.
So that was like, oh, so that put something in my brain. So now, like you said, I have a morning routine. I go run, do something for myself, and then I meditate, and then I set my day for the day so that I am on 100 when I need to pass out the rest of me for the day, so that my day is not depleted all the way before I even started. So that's huge. And that's what I teach my people. And it's huge for them too, because like you said, you have a wife, you have kids, and everybody's like, well, if I put myself first, how am I putting them second? But if you're nothing or you have nothing to give, you have nothing to give. You can't take zero from zero.
No, and think about a cup. You know, you put liquid in a cup. You can put whatever your cup is filled with. For me, a lot of people are like coffee. And I'm like,
coffee.
I'm a tea guy. I like tea. So mine's filled with tea. But some people might not like that. But think about your cup. If I have a cup and the water inside of that cup is up to the brim, and I'm the one that's me. All the things about me is that water. And I give it to you, and I let you have a sip, and 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 let them have a sip, and let them have a sip. I'm looking at my cup going, well, I don't got much left for me.
Yeah.
The problem is that we give from inside of our cup.
Yeah. Instead
of giving from the overflow from our cup.
Yeah.
What we got to do is we got to switch this, because we were saying give from your cup, give, and that makes you happier. No. Give has destroyed a lot of people. We don't want to do that. But what we need to do is we got to be the ones who fill that cup up every single day. Well, how do we do that? Well, we have routines. We do this. We take care. Again, body, mind, bonds, bills, and spirit is what I teach, and what I focus on. But how do you fill that up every single day? You fill the cup up and you get that thing overflowing. Think about this. If your cup is overflowing every single day with exactly who you are, why you do what you do on this earth, and you're doing that every single day, and you're going out living through your purpose, you love your story, you own yourself, and you live with purpose every day, your cup is overflowing. I can give to everybody.
Yeah.
Like, you can keep coming.
Yeah.
And now, the thing is, some people get mad, though. Some people are like, well, you tasted my cup, but you tasted my tea, you didn't like it. And then that throws us off. That stops our, but it's okay. Some people are like tea, some people aren't going to like tea. It's okay.
Yeah, everybody doesn't like the same tea. Yeah.
It's okay. It's all right. Yeah. I'm not mad at you. You know, my vibe, what I do, how I do it doesn't
work for everybody. Exactly.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to, and I think, that's that instant gratification side too, is we want people to like us. We want people to feel, but again, we got to like us. Yes. I know who I am.
Yeah.
And if you don't like the taste of my tea, I'm okay with that. Mm-hmm. Because I might not be your flavor.
Yeah.
That's all right. You might like tea.
Yeah.
You might not like the tea that I have.
Yeah. Okay. But that comes with that self-confidence. Yeah. It's okay because you like you. So whatever everybody else feels about you is perfectly fine if you are content with who you are. All right, Clay. So
I wanted to go.
Go ahead.
I want to go back to one thing that you said, because you said about, do men have feelings? And I'm going to ask too is, do women have feelings? Yes. And when we look at this, when we love ourselves wholly, I can now give more love out. Right. We get exponential when we get exponential growth, not just like an addition to it, but we get exponential growth and expansion when we love ourselves. Think about the lighthouse. Lighthouse stands firm in one space and then shines its light out. Doesn't move. It doesn't do what the tugboat does. It wears itself out, going back out. But it does the same thing. It saves ships. But every ship doesn't use it. But the stronger I can build that up and make that light, just like filling your cup, the more I can overflow my cup. The stronger I can make my light, the more reach I have. And the more people that can see that and come to safety for whatever it is that they need. They may use it, may not use it. But when we take care of ourselves, we have a greater expanse for everybody around us.
And we shine brighter.
Yes.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. So Clay, in your opinion, when someone says, or when you read, live and love life, what does that mean to you?
To me, that's like own yourself, just like own all of it, and then love your story. And here's the thing, I totally forget her name. It was actually on it was at a women's leadership event. Kathleen Hassan, that's what it is. Kathleen Hassan. It changed my perspective because it gets a little crude, but she said this to middle schoolers, so it should be all right. Not crude, but she said basically this, and she was talking about women's leadership and stuff like that. Usually we would always go to the young men's leadership, and so we switched that year. And it was really cool because she said, I had 1 foot in the past. I always had 1 foot in the future, and I was taking a leak all over the present. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's me. I'm like, I was just doing it. Like, and I'm like, oh, and what we have to do is think about our story. Where you are right now in your life is all because of your choices. And here's what I get a lot with Clay, you don't understand. I go, you're right, I don't. But I don't have to. You do. Because it's your story, not mine. Yeah. You may not, like, there's things that have happened to me. Yes. But I chose a response to it. Mm-hmm. So we have event plus the response equals the outcome. I might not have chose the event, but I chose the response to it. Yeah. Just like, dealing with, I have 2 kids from my 2 marriages. So I have two schedules, two parents to go between. We have a blended family of 3, and then my wife's daughter. So we have 3 parents we go through.
Okay.
But in the end, I chose. All my choices led up to the life we live now, and I had to take ownership of that. When you take ownership of it, John Maxwell says there's 2 days where you're born. One is when you were born from your mother, and the second is the day you wake up and you realize that and take full, complete ownership of your entire life and every choice you've made. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, wow. I'm like, okay, I am where I am, and you are right now where you are, and your listeners are exactly where they are because of the choices that they have made in their life.
Awesome. I love that. Okay. So are you working on any new products or anything you would like to share with the listeners?
I am. I actually just launched it today. So, I'm launching it this week. I launched I just totally forgot what it was, a masterclass video. Okay. Training.
Oh, nice.
So I just launched that today. It's called the top 7 ways to get out of the work-life balance rut. That's one of the biggest things I hear. Not only from men, but women as well, like the work-life balance. I'm an educator, so I hear it all over the building and stuff like that. And so just giving those, and what that is it's a 15-minute video training. And I go through the top 10 or the 10 myths about work-life balance. Because what that does is we have some misconceptions about work-life balance, about what it is. And I'll just give you the first one, that balance actually exists. To me, I don't think it exists. It's about transition from one to the other. So I'm on here talking with you right now, but when I stop, I'm going to have to transition my thought, my energy, my presence from podcast, I don't know what that is, podcast space up to my wife and my kids. So I'm going to have to transition that energy. So it's about transition. It's not necessarily about balance, because balance is even. I'm a math guy. Yeah. If balance is even, it's stagnant. And I don't like that word, stagnant. So that's just one of the myths. And then what I have is also I have 10 or 7 strategies or action steps that you can implement immediately. That's going to allow you to be less stressed, less overwhelmed, have more energy, more time, and more feel like you have more presence with your family in those. Because that's a big one. That, hey, I have all this going on, all this going here at home and work. Well, I'm overwhelmed with the work-life balance. So I actually just launched that today. I opened it up. So you can go to buildbattlebond.com and it'll be there. So buildbattlebond.com. And then I just designed before the Brotherhood guys checked it out and they could just get it right in, but we kind of switched it up, and I actually designed a purpose-infused Brotherhood initiation process. Nice. I think we kind of lost that in history, this initiation into, initiation into manhood. Mm-hmm. We've lost that. So we're going to do initiation. And basically what it is, it's an 8-week process and an 8-step process, 8-week process to burn down the old self and rebuild the new self of who you want to be. So our logo is the Phoenix, And so the phoenix, that's what we do, what we call a phoenix cycle. And the phoenix will burn itself down, and from the ashes of its old self, it'll give birth to a new, better version of itself. And that's what we do. So that 8-week initiation takes a man through that to say, hey, here's the things I don't want in my life anymore. Here's the things that are stressing me out that I'm going through. I don't want this anymore. Here's who I want to be. And he gives them an 8-week step process that they can continuously use over and over again. And then week 7 and 8, we actually initiate them into the brotherhood with a couple of different activities and stuff like that that allow them to share with the brotherhood who they are, why they do what they do, and who they want to be, so that we can help them keep accountability and ownership of themselves on who they said they want to be.
That's awesome. Good stuff for the listeners today. Okay. Can you please let them know where we can find you or follow you?
You can search Purpose Infused Brotherhood anywhere. I'm on social media. I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, and also Instagram at Purpose Infused Brotherhood. On all of them, you can go to purposeinfusedbrotherhood.com. I have some more information on there, but you can also go to buildbattlebond.com and get that top 7 ways to get out of that work-life rut, or work-life balance rut. Woo!
Tongue twister there. Okay, awesome. So thank you to the listeners. I want to thank you, Clay, so much for coming on and dropping all these fabulous little jewels on my people. You guys, I hope you picked up something from this. Please check out his masterclass. These are all little things that can help you figure out where you're going so that you can get to this living and loving life purpose that you need to find as soon as possible. All right, guys, thanks for listening, and I will talk to you next week.
If you love the Living and Loving Life podcast, we'd love for you to subscribe, rate, and give a review on iTunes. Don't forget to join us next week for another episode. Thank you for listening.